Singapore, and joining us today in part one are Fernando Alonso of McLaren, Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes and Jolyon Palmer of Renault. Fernando, can we start with you? These 2017 Formula One cars were intended to be more physical. Everyone seems to have coped fine so far, but is this the race that the drivers are expecting to be really tough?
Probably yes. I think this one and the next one, Malaysia, I think will be the two races that will be more demanding physically. But as you said, I think there were more news on winter than what actually we got when we went in the cars. And so I think it's going to be okay and no problems for anyone. You know.
And what news have you? Are you happy with the direction things are going with the McLaren situation? What have you been telling the team this last month or so?
Not much.
And any ideas of when we will hear some news from you?
As I said, you know, I will think what is the best option, and as I said many times, whatever I do next year is because I want to win. I will not be around in any series to be fighting for top 10 or top 15 or nothing like that. So there are many options out there that you know I'm studying, I'm looking at, and as I said, for Formula One, Formula One is my first and only priority. So I will wait to make a decision on that before making decisions on other series, and at the same time, you know, I want to give time to my team. You know, after the last 3 years with some struggles that we went through together, to have time for them to make decisions, to see the future, the next year's car, and after they take decisions, I will take mine. You know, I want to stay loyal at least to that, you know, and not make any decisions without them making first their decisions. So, you know, relax, happy, and we see what's going on in the next weeks.
Okay, thanks for that. Coming on to Lewis Hamilton, World Championship leader at the moment, also like Fernando, a two-time Singapore Grand Prix winner. Lewis, you've had 4 years without this guy in your face during Grand Prix races battling you for the wins. Is it too strong to say that you've missed those battles, and do you believe or think that he might be battling with you again next year?
I hope he's got a car to fight with us next year. I think that only adds to the spectacle and the challenge. You know, we want to see the best drivers and the best teams up there, and it's been a shame not to have McLaren really where they historically have been. So I hope that whether it's with McLaren or wherever Fernando happens to be next year, he has a chance to be fighting with us.
Obviously massive weekends for you in Spa and Monza, particularly that away win in Monza and the all-time record on the poles. Speaking of poles, pretty critical here. I think it's 7 of the last 8 Singapore Grand Prix have been won by the pole sitter, and the only exception is you when you broke down that time, your last race here with McLaren. So would it be too strong to say your focus this weekend is on that single lap and perfect execution on Saturday?
I've not really put any thought into it yet. The work goes into it today. So I think qualifying, of course, if that is the case, then you can't really overtake here. So plus the cars are wider. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's going to be, positioning is definitely obviously very important. So getting the car set up right so that you can execute in qualifying, I guess, is one of the key matters.
And there is the feeling you might be up against it a bit more here compared to Spa and Monza from the Ferrari side, and possibly Red Bull as well.
Yeah, I think Red Bull will be fast this weekend, and it's known that it's not going to be the easiest of weekends potentially, but man, I'm coming with positivity and with the plan on winning this race. This is still, regardless if that is the case, the others potentially have a little bit more downforce or whatever it is. We've worked as hard as we can to understand the car, and we come here with full attack. So.
Okay, thank you for that. And coming to you, Jolyon, clearly there's been a fair bit going on behind the scenes in Formula One in the last few weeks, particularly around Renault and the teams it's going to supply in the future. What does it all mean for you?
Well, firstly, I'm just focused on doing the job that I'm doing, so I try not to pay any attention to that sort of thing. For me, I have 7 races this year to try and do the best I can. Yeah, obviously it's been a little bit of a tough year. I think the last 2 races have been much better, even if they didn't show in the end. The performance has been I think they're thereabouts. So hopefully the car will be better on these tracks and we can finally get some points.
Your role's pretty critical now in that very tight midfield Constructors' Championship battle. You've had, I think, 5 retirements, and 4 times this year you've been the first car to retire in a Grand Prix. Has it stopped you, do you think, from showing what you can do in Formula One?
Well, yes, because clearly when the car's not working, you can't drive it. You can't try and score some points. I think there's been a few places. Silverstone, for example, I didn't even start the race, and that was quite a strong race for us. Baku, I think 11 cars finished. I think the Sauber got the points, and we broke down after, again, 5 or 6 laps. So definitely it's not been ideal to have that level of reliability problems. Also in the practice sessions to lose so much kind of puts you on the back foot for the weekend. But the team's been working very hard at the same time in trying to fix it. Every time something happens, we're finding out why, learning from it, and we keep getting different problems. But hopefully we've put a stop to that now. And I think, like I said, the car's going to be strong, especially in these next few races. So we can have a good car, good reliability, good performance, and finally I can show what I can do and score some points.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, let's throw it open to the floor. Who's got the first question, please? And remember to give us your name and your publication when asking a question.
We can hear you, so you can just shout.
Graham Harris, Motorsport Monday, motorsportweek.com. Question for Jolyon. Much has been said about your possible future next year, although nothing has been announced. Will you care to say something about it? And if what has been said in the paddock happens, do you have a plan B for an alternate drive next year?
I don't care too much to talk about it. No, it's I know what's happening. I think there'll be an announcement probably at some point in the future, not too long. For me, I'm excited about the future. Yeah, I haven't thought too much, but yeah, I think yeah, I'm excited for what's to come.
Okay, thank you. Next one, please.
Next one. Yeah. Can you try the mic, otherwise go close to James, please. Try the microphone. Gentleman over there. Thank you.
Rick Spekenbrink for Algemeen Dagblad. Question for all three of you. Driving at night, obviously. What challenges or difficulties does that bring to you? And second, do you prefer it over day racing?
Fernando, why don't you start?
I don't think that it makes any difference to us, to be honest. I think we get used to the night drive quite quickly, and the vision that you have that moment, so it makes no difference on driving. And probably this race is nice to have it at night. It's good on television. It's you know, a very unique event. So you know, I think probably in my opinion I prefer to race at night, because we've been racing at night here all the time, but in different circuits. I don't know, maybe in hot places, hot countries, maybe at night is also a good idea.
Lewis.
Not really much more to add to that. It's feel the same way about it.
Likewise, yeah.
Okay, next one.
Okay, for Lewis. In the last race,
can you have your name, please?
Chandra from Java Post. In the last race in Monza, you described your Mercedes as a dream car to drive. And also, Valtteri also said that Mercedes found a different kind of stability. Do you see that this would be a big advantage going into this weekend to fight Ferraris and also Red Bulls?
I don't think it's going to be a big advantage. I don't understand it that the car will potentially help this weekend, but you never really know where you're going to be able to place the car. So if we can get the car in a place that we're comfortable in, a bit like they were in the last two races, then I think we'll definitely be strong in the fight.
In front of him, white shirt. Yeah. Okay.
John McAvoy, Daily Mail, to Fernando. You obviously went to America to race in India and enjoyed the experience. Are there options from America, maybe from Indy, if things don't work out in Formula One for you?
There are options everywhere, and they are all very good. So you just need to be patient and wait a couple of weeks.
Gentleman beside him, white shirt.
Phil Duncan, PA. Jolyon, there's some suggestions you won't be in the car in Malaysia and that you'll be replaced by Carlos Sainz. So has the team told you anything about that? Are you expecting to be in the car at the next race?
Yes, I have a contract. I've got 7 more races this year. There's been suggestions for, I think, 35 races that I might not be in the next one or in the next few. So this is nothing new for me. It's water off a duck's back now. It's the same, I think, probably, yeah, most races this year it's been the case and nothing's changed.
Next one. Front row, gentlemen, front rows.
It's Barna Zsoldos, Nemzeti Sport. Luis, 5 years ago you had to retire from the lead because of a mechanical issue. Can you still remember the emotions on that day and the days after? Because I think it was the period when you made the final decision to switch to Mercedes. And do you consider this the best decision of your life?
I do remember the time. I can assure you that it didn't have any bearing on the decision. You've obviously been with McLaren for many, many, many years and lots of success. So one race doesn't mean that you make a decision that's going to affect your whole life. So still at that point, we had one of the best cars as leading. It was an unfortunate scenario, but because the team worked so hard to have had that, to deserve that win. So it was really unfortunate. I think I was pretty chilled afterwards as far as I can remember, but yeah, it was a long time ago. And in the following days, I was already way through negotiations and still weighing up my odds, but negotiations were looking good, so I was already halfway probably to my decision.
And the other part was, is it the best decision you've ever made?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Formula 1 it's like a game of chess. You know, and it's really about picking your moves at the right time, and hopefully you have enough options. But anyways, we all eventually have some sort of options, and we all have a decision to make, and you hope that you make the right ones. Of course, I felt strongly about the decision that I made, and felt fully confident in it. I could never have dreamed of it being as good as it was, or has been. But that was the hope. And again, another dream came true. So it's been a really great experience, and one I wouldn't change for the world, of course.
Next one. Okay, no, go first, gentleman over there, because we can talk. So.
Andrea Cremonesi, la Gazzetta dello Sport. A question for Luis. Yesterday, Mercedes announced Bottas for next season. It was not a surprise, of course, but how is important in this final part of the championship to have a teammate that is sure for the future, and so he can maybe help you or fight with you?
In all honesty, it doesn't make any difference to the season. Doesn't change my job, doesn't change his job, so it has zero impact on that for me personally. I think maybe for him, I can only assume that it's a good feeling to have your next year covered. And so yeah, I'm sure but again, we knew that was going to happen, so it's not changed anything.
Next one.
Sam Harden, Zero Zone News. This question's for all three of you. To follow up on the earlier question, of course, the new F1 game shows Monaco at night. So I'd like to know from you guys, what other tracks could you think of that would be great to run at night?
Jolyon.
I prefer Monaco in the day, to be honest, because it's a spectacular place. You've got the harbour there, obviously. So I think it's pretty iconic in the day. This is a nice one to race at night. Also, Abu Dhabi, you got the lights. You've got a lot going on there, and Bahrain as well. I mean, it was super hot there this year, so it was even nicer to race at night. But generally, I think the day's fine. Also, I don't have a big problem with that. And I think The race where we race at night, there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of lighting, a lot of great iconic things that work at night. But I mean, I can't imagine Silverstone, for example, looking so spectacular there in Northampton. But I think some races are good in the day and some are good in the night.
Fernando, has any you thought might work?
I don't have a strong opinion on that. You know, it's hard to imagine some circuit that historically has been at night like this one, change it for daytime and vice versa. So I think it's okay as it is, and I don't imagine any of the current races at night.
How about you, Lewis? Any thoughts? What might work?
Not really put much thought to it, but I mean, I think this track is great. Being that it's at night, I think it makes a big difference. I think it's in the day, it would be a lot less exciting. I think it's being that it's at night time, it makes it a real spectacle. If you look at places like Bahrain, which is a beautiful place and a fantastic circuit in the daytime, firstly it was just too hot to race really, and then I don't know, it just wasn't. When it's at night, you really get to see the sand dune kind of things that are the real features of the surroundings of the circuit. So sometimes I think there are some circuits we could do at night time which would be a bit better. I've not really thought of which ones, but I think it's quite cool. Maybe a race where you have it 1 year it's in the daytime and 1 year it's at night time. I think it's a cool feature.
Okay, thank you. Next one.
Second row. Dieter Enken, Racing Lines. Jolyon, if I understood you correctly, earlier on you said that you knew what was going on with your future, that there would be an announcement soon, and then you said you also had a contract for another 7 races. But we know that in Formula One, contracts are negotiable. If you know exactly what's going on with your future, then you must know whether you'll be in Malaysia or whether it's negotiable. So which of the two is it?
Well, I said I've got 7 races to do. I'll be in Malaysia. I'll be racing till Abu Dhabi. So yeah, I've already said the same.
Next one, sorry. Again, gentlemen, front row.
You must have done 1,000 press conferences now.
Graham Harris, Motorsport Monday, motorsportweek.com. Question for Fernando. In Spa, I asked Zach about your participation potentially next year at the Indy 500, and assuming that you stayed at McLaren, and he was emphatic and he said no. He said you would be required to be in Monaco next year because they expect to have better performance and it wouldn't be a situation like this year. A, does that affect your decision in whether you stay or whether you go to another team? And B, does that mean that if you do stay at McLaren temporarily, the dream of the Triple Crown is put on hold for a while?
The Triple Crown is clear target for me in the future, and there are 3 races there. So if one of those, the Indy 500, is together with Monaco, as we know, there is another one still to complete. So Triple Crown is still ongoing at the maximum speed. But yeah, I agree the same thing as Zach said. If I remain in Formula One, it's because I believe that I can win next year. So that will easier the decision a lot, because I will be in Monaco, because I don't want to lose any points there. So priority is Formula One, as I said before, and winning here. And Triple Crown is on the background. And as I said, there are 3 races, not only Indy. So there are many possibilities to do a fantastic 2018.
Next one. Gentlemen of the 4th row.
Ben Edwards, Channel 4. Fernando, Monza, you're a bit unhappy that Jolyon didn't give you the place back in the battle you two guys were having.
No, with him.
Not with him, no. But
that was your thing, the week later, and the news that they changed with all the engine saga and all these things. So the news turned a little bit, but I was not happy with the stewards and with the FIA, So
did you talk to the stewards any further, and will you talk to them more in the drivers' meeting?
I will talk tomorrow, but there is not much to talk. I mean, they make a mistake, and they know already. So there is not much to talk.
Lady over there.
Rebecca Clancy, The Times. Fernando, just following on from what you're saying about Indy next year not being able to do it, does that mean you're focusing on maybe doing Le Mans next year instead? Because I don't believe that does clash with a race.
There is nothing yet confirmed. You know, as I said, my plans didn't change. I'm waiting for my current team to make up their decisions, and after that to negotiate whatever possibilities I have here, which is my first priority, and the Triple Crown to win in one day. I think that will put me in a good level of, you know, a complete driver that can win in any series in any time. So those objectives still there. As I said, you know, for my fans and for motorsport lovers, they will have a fantastic 2018 season. So the plan is ongoing, and very good news are coming.